morning, world. This is Steve Rao, one of the co-hosts of World Edition on Pod and Roku TV. I hope you all are well into your new year, and we continue to look at the devastating fires in California. And wind will continue to make it harder to contain this fire. Thousands and thousands of people evacuated from their homes, and California is in a state of emergency. Meanwhile, this has made political turmoil between President-elect Trump and Newsom as it's become very divisive and very partisan. And we'll talk about that as well. Meanwhile, we're only a week away from the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, who around noon on this time next week on MLK Day will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. What do we see a Trump presidency being like? What cabinet members will most likely be confirmed? And what will it mean for the foreign policy of the United States? A lot of things have been on the table: the purchase of Greenland, changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico, buying the Panama, taking over the Panama Canal. And some people are calling it not the Monroe Doctrine, but the Dunroe Doctrine. Is it a return to American imperialism? Or is it just his way of telling people, I'm going to give you something not to expect, giving him another negotiating chip, along with deportation, deregulation, tariffs? All things are on the table as we are only a week away from him sitting in the Oval Office again. What do we think about the Biden presidency the last 4 years? Did he make a mistake not announcing he was running again? Or do we think he could have beaten Donald Trump? We're going to be talking about all of these things today and on American politics tomorrow. But I want to go ahead and get started, and I want to bring in Mark Lee. I'm here for about 30 minutes today. Mark, welcome to the show.
Some interesting conversations and all along those lines, but we'll see how it all goes. And a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to happen with the confirmation of a number of these cabinet members and all along those lines. I know a lot of people are still upset about RFK and upset about a number of other ones as well. So it ought to be interesting to see how this all plays out. And of course, we've still got the war in Ukraine and of course, attempts at ceasefire in Israel and the Middle East. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting preparation week, and I know that there'll probably be all kinds of folks that'll be going up there for the inauguration. I know the only inauguration that I ever went to was the first one for Barack Obama, and actually a friend of mine got me to get tickets to that, and went up there, and we had a good time, and that was the first one being there, even seeing Katie Couric come running by us and things along those lines, and then ducking into one of the museums. I think it was the Aeronautics Museum and the American Indian Museum after the inauguration and everything. But it was interesting being up there at that particular time for about 2 or 3 days and spending that time in D.C. with a dear friend who I've unfortunately lost touch with in the recent years and everything like that. But yeah, it was an interesting experience, and glad that I had that experience in life and everything like that. Actually wound up staying with some of her family members and everything along those lines because they lived in D.C. and everything like that. So I don't know how many inaugurations you've attended or how many Rick has attended, and maybe Rick's going to be trying to attend this one and everything.
Zero of them.
Hey, Rick, are you okay in California? Let's get right into it.
Thanks for asking. We've had some nervous times, but the wind has died down over the past 2 days. It's supposed to start up again this hour. My wife tells me in 20 minutes. I don't know how accurate they can be, but without the wind, they've been able to get a pretty good handle on it.
Okay.
But we'll see. But thank you for asking. 12,000 homes gone, more than 50 square miles burned. Lots of... You could use all the fingers on both hands to point blame at different. I'd say number one blame goes to wind and no rain, and a lot of rain last year, which grew all this vegetation that's now all dried up. But then you've got this woman who is the LA Fire Department manager, gets paid $750,000 a year, and she shut down a huge reservoir. She didn't get any of these busted hydrants fixed. I'd say some people lose their jobs. I think this LSD lady will probably lose her job. I don't think the fire chief will. I think she's been doing pretty well. I don't know if the mayor, Karen Bass, will lose her job. The governor won't, but the all the Fox News fingers are all pointing at him and Bass
Was
because he's a strong presidential
not to
candidate.
make it, yeah. Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say that I had a personal friend who actually I grew up with in West Virginia. They just did an article on her at people.com, but she was in Raleigh for a number of years and decided to move to Palisades. And she went to dinner. She put it on Facebook and a movie with her two daughters. And when they came back, the house was gone. So she's in a state of trauma. And we've known her since I was 5, 6 years old in West Virginia. Her name is Sarah Trepanier. So I'm going to reach out to her and see whether she might want to come on. But one question I had was, do you think this will affect, even though it's early to say, does this take Newsom off the list of front runners for the presidency in 28?
No, because people will forget.
I doubt it. I think that there's going to be so much investigation into how this happened that I think by then it'll be muted. I mean, it'll certainly be popping up on Fox News for the next 4 years, but he's not the only, and he's not. I don't know if he's even in the top 5. If this were a car wreck and you were taking it to court and trying to assign percent blame, I don't think he's in the top 5 fingers you could point. Top 10 probably for sure. But also this just underlines how we got to, with changing climate and changing population patterns. My wife tells me that LA hasn't built a new firehouse, hasn't added to the number of firehouses we have since the 60s. And the population has doubled since then. And obviously the climate has changed and where people live. And we got to start, realizing that, and also maybe adopting some new tech. They were spotting fires from satellites in space, but maybe that's, there's all sorts of new tech. I think we need fire bots and fire drones that can get, like a lot of the houses were on these curvy streets in the fancy neighborhoods where the streets are narrow and it's hard to get fire trucks to them. So we have to change the whole, how we, not just California. Florida has its own weather issues. So do the Carolinas, the whole eastern seaboard, where we have to figure it out.
Well, we're going to have a star with us today. We're just going to go around. We're a week away from the inauguration. What do we think about the Monroe Doctrine, imperialism, Greenland, Panama Canal, Gulf of Mexico? Sasha, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are not very encourageable. What really he is doing, he's deflecting from the promises that he made during his election campaign. Now, since he won the election, these promises are on the back burner. They're no longer even being discussed. But he now is bringing new issues to deflect. Okay, so he promised that he will make peace in Russia-Ukrainian war. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So now he's bringing new things. He's bringing Greenland. He's bringing Canada, Panama Canal, and so on. Now, even all that is not new, because the attempts to somehow take control over Greenland, they were even during Nixon administration and during the previous administration, so on. It's not a new issue. Right now, Denmark is supporting Greenland, although the population of Greenland is very small, 50-some thousand people. Denmark is providing all the infrastructure and medicine and education, just name it. So is that desire of United States with this $36 trillion deficit to take over Greenland and supply all the necessary means for the local population? What else is there is to do? With Canada, situation is different. Also, it's not a new issue. There were discussions many times over and over. The thing is that you have to look at how similar situations were developing, for example, between West and East Germany. Okay, they were divided. There were two independent countries. Then they just merged. And what happened? The Western Germany, as a bigger, more prosperous country, obviously, they completely adopt all and in all entirety the East Germany, its population. They even exchange Deutschmarks, which Western Germany Deutschmark was probably 50% higher than Eastern Deutschmark. But they exchanged Eastern Deutschmark 1-to-1. And so obviously people were very happy. The process was taking many years. It's still not completed even now. If you will go to Germany, if you will go to Berlin and you go to West Berlin and enjoy yourself, and if you will go to territory of former East Berlin, it's poor, it's despicable, even now, it's now so much time has passed. So with Canada, you have to go through some kind of economic cooperation, like take Europe. The European Union didn't merge in one day. It was a slow process where first was the cooperation on economic level, the industrial level. Then it was cooperation in all other levels of political life and so on. So this was a process. Now, unless U.S. wants to move on with its force and actually invade Canada, then it has to be serious of negotiation processes, and they're not very simple. Now, Canada prepared quite recently evaluation of Canada with its mineral resources and so on. It appears to me that each Canadian, in case of U.S. wants to completely unite with Canada, each Canadian would have to get anywhere from $20 to $50 U.S. dollars for each Canadian dollar. Although Canadian dollar is lower, evidently today than U.S. dollar. In the meantime, Canadian ministers of each province, they will get together on Wednesday in Ottawa to discuss a joint retaliation strategy against U.S. There is actually what can happen with Trump's attempts on Greenland, Denmark, of course. And there could be some other countries in Europe that he is very vocal, or his what's his name, Musk, Elon Musk. Elon, remember, it's not a name, it's a title. Remember, I told you about it already. I'll tell you more about it later on. So he's now attacking UK, he's attacking Germany. So what may happen is that there will be retaliatory strategy from not only Canada, but Europe as well. And then United States, with all their problems with China and attempts to settle Ukrainian-Russian war. What else is there? Did I forget something? So is that all that enough, plus $37 trillion worth of debt? I think U.S. has a lot on its plate. And we'll see if this administration will last 4 years. I don't think so.
Hey, Sasha, speaking of that and everything,
what Trump cost us is time. The government didn't get crap done during the first 4 years of Trump. And it didn't get a lot done in the past 2 years with the House being paralyzed. And if we're going to spend the next 4 years on nonsense, that costs us 4 years of addressing some of the issues. Like this channel addresses the budget, the deficit that needs to be addressed. And Trump made it worse. Biden made it worse. Obama, everybody added, each president added about $8 trillion to the deficit. And I doubt we're going to cut it much of this. And obviously we got to address if you call it climate change or just call it bad luck, but we have to address what's happening across the country with storms and fires. And the government could do something about it, but it may go to private industry. The LA fires are now said they're going to cost more than $100 billion to fix, $100 billion in damage. So if you could build a fire bot that sits in your backyard, like what people do is when the fires are coming, they get on their roofs with hoses and they hose down their houses until the cops chase them away, and then the house burns. And yeah, you have to chase them away because otherwise they would burn along with the houses. But if you could sell a $3,000 fire bot that sits on your roof and just sprays it down while the firestorm is going, you'd sell $1 billion worth of those and save a bunch of houses. Anyway.
I'd like to mention that Canadian firefighters from Alberta and British Columbia are sending a lot of help to California and participating in dealing with these fires. I'm wondering where is Elon Musk to do anything with his unparalleled financial muscle, plus technological muscle. He's a great scientist, engineer, and I never heard him saying anything about this fire and his help to deal with this fire, rather than blaming Governor Newsom and other stuff.
Yeah,
he
might have a point in terms of blaming Governor Newsom. And I'll tell you, here's the problem with the weather. It looked to first glance that nobody could stop this and everything's going to burn down. But the liberals have to look at this problem. It's called the Getty Museum. The Getty Museum stood because they took this area seriously. And so the Getty Museum did not get wiped out because they created reserves, they made sure they had water, they managed it properly, and the Getty Museum will stand today where everything else got burned down. Also, you got to factor this in. The insurance companies knew something that apparently everybody else didn't. They dropped all their policies, State Farm and Liberty Mutual, 4 months before this happened. Now, we can also conclude, and this is, you guys are going to love this one, the DEI policies that exist in Southern California aren't merit-based. So they brought in all these people who don't know jack about what they're doing, similarly what they did in Venezuela to run the oil fields. And so you get this, what you paid for down in Southern California. You had horrible leaders who didn't take it seriously. They weren't Getty Museum type leaders. Instead, they were all political hacks. And so what happens? The fire burns down half of California. Okay. By the way, this was meant for Jitobi. I'm glad he showed up because I want to hear
Jitobi has a point.
The great DEI policy and how that worked out. How did that work out for you there?
So just a couple of things. One, you talked about a private entity that supposedly put all this extra money into what they could do around their facility. That's not what a government entity can do. Speaking, and the irony of Nick saying this, the man who always wants to cut the budget, well, that happened. So when you cut the budget, that cuts funds to particular things, the things that you're actually asking for, Nick. So your argument is basically against your own argument. So, that contradiction doesn't work. Then you want to jump over to DEI. Why is it never DEI when there's a white guy in there? For some odd reason, we use DEI to say black people can't or minorities can't. So you're now saying that black people are not able to be firefighters, black people aren't, or minorities are unqualified to help put out fires. That doesn't work. So really, these same individuals that are out fighting fires are all on that same level playing field. So DEI had absolutely nothing to do with it. DEI is only used to attack minorities, but never used in a situation where it wasn't DEI when the white individual got there, but it's always DEI when the black individual got there. So again, using that is useless. The problem is that we're trying to play armchair quarterback in a situation where you have something that has never happened before. So yes, this was a catastrophic fire. It wasn't due to, California is releasing all this water to save this fish. That's a conspiracy theory. All these things are just political things and not really looking at what actually happened. It's the same thing that happened in North Carolina. When you brought up insurance companies dropped out of Florida. Why? Same reason. Insurance companies dropped out of the coast of North Carolina. Same reason. So to blame it on California or to blame it on these policies, that's politics. And that's basically lying to score points. And that's not what we need right now.
I'll tell the Getty Museum that.
So the issue, hold on. The issues by far predate DEI. So I said we haven't increased the number of firehouses in Los Angeles since the 60s. That by far predates DEI. We haven't changed like if you're going to build in a fire zone, you need to use fire hardened construction, which means instead of using wood framing, you use concrete tilt up framing. You make people use fire resistant shingles. You really enforce getting brush cleared away. There's one shopping center in the Palisades that survived, and that's because it's owned by the billionaire candidate for LA mayor, Rick Caruso. And he brought in fire mercenaries. He brought in a private firefighting force, kind of like the Getty, but maybe even more extreme. I guess they had their own water, their own pumps, their own trucks, or I don't know what the hell they had, but they saved his shopping center. And now he's a billionaire. He's going to swoop in.
That was a mismanagement by the liberal establishment.
No.
So all you did is reinforce my argument.
Excuse me, I'm surprised.
It doesn't reinforce your argument, Nick. What it's showing is that money is what it is. And you want to cut the budget.
No money in
you don't want to pay for it. If you don't want to pay for it, this is what we're dealing with. That's the problem, is that there are particular things that can help the situation. But as you're stating and repeating over top of me, there's no money. We can't pay for it. But yet you're pointing out these situations where these individuals can pay.
I'm surprised that you are talking already about Getty Museum. I was there. It's on a very high rock. Up in the sky, you can it's very difficult even to reach there. So obviously it's insulated from any fire, providing that there will be a worldwide catastrophe.
No, because the fire made it there. The fire got all the way almost to the 405 in places. It's right above the 405, and the deal is there's brush, and the brush goes up and it sends embers every place. The Getty's made out of marble. So at least that's smart. There's no wood there. It's all marble and cement. So it's going to have a hard time burning. And the fire's really temporary because it's grass and chaparral and creosote bushes burning. If you can hold the fire off for half an hour while it sweeps past you, you maybe have a chance. But anyway, like the DEI is one of, I don't know, 15 different fingers you can point and rank as to what's responsible. I don't think it's in the top 10.
It's not in the top 10.
DEI has nothing to do with it.
Hey, just really quickly, everybody here.
It was definitely not mismanaged, except all the people that managed it properly didn't get burned down.
No, but mismanagement is hold on.
Fires in California forever.
And then all you guys are apologizing for it. And
mismanagement
is an argument that's in my favor. So I don't know why you're apologizing for your mismanagement. Just admit it.
Nick,
I'm not apologizing. I'm saying that
this is the funny part. Hold on.
Just admit it, and you'll feel better.
It's not all DEI. Okay, so wait. Okay, you got two things. You have two things. You have two things. You have mismanagement and you have complacency. Under complacency, you also have a failure to realize that conditions have changed. And I don't think that DEI is a major component of complacency and the mismanagement. We have this one woman who used to work for the power companies, who's the manager of the LA Fire Department, gets paid $750,000 a year. She should be fired. Did she get her job because through DEI? I don't know, but she screwed up a bunch of stuff. And
Okay.
I mean, heads will roll. Will they all be DEI heads? I doubt it.
So DEI has absolutely nothing to do with it. Nick, was it DEI that caused the floods out in Western North Carolina? No. Was it DEI that caused the ice in Texas, where Ted Cruz decided to go on vacation and disappear and left his family here? No, it wasn't. But yet you say, oh, you want to change it to mismanagement DEI. You want to change it to this and that. It's not that. We have a changing globe. Our climate is changing. We have mismanaged climate change. We have mismanaged the brush fires and dealing with the underbrush. There's a lot of things that we're not dealing with, and that we want to find some boogeyman for political purposes and political reasons and ideas around this, just so we can push some. They're blaming what was it? The New Orleans bombs, or the terrorists in New Orleans, the terrorists right in front of Trump Tower on immigration. It had nothing to do with immigration. You're pushing political talking points the same way that's talking about DEI. Has absolutely nothing to do with it. There's nothing.
Texas had twice as
Hold on a
much
second, folks.
wildfire. Texas had the second. Texas had the Smokehouse Creek fire that burned 1.2
Hey, Mark, I'm going to close
million
out.
acres.
I'll be back tomorrow. I just want to close out. I wish everyone a happy new year, midway through the year, and looking forward to the inauguration in a few days. We'll be talking a little bit more about kind of what Trump is going to be like as a president. I think you're seeing a shift in American foreign policy, what's going to happen to Ukraine, what's going to happen in the Middle East, and then also interesting about deportation and deregulation and tariffs, but a major disruption, and we continue to pray for California. So that's my closeout today. Have a great rest of the show, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, hopefully.
Hey, just appreciate it, Steve. Just really quickly, a couple of things I was going to bring up and everything. I'm glad that Sasha brought up the assistance that California is getting from Canada, and it's definitely much needed. I know some people that are involved in California and all along those lines, but let's not forget that another country that has gotten a lot of pushback from the upcoming Trump administration is also sending a lot of firefighters as well. So Mexico has been sending a lot of firefighters that way, as has other parts of Latin America. So there have been a number of firefighters there. And Rick, I didn't know if you were aware of this or all along those lines, but another group of folks that are oftentimes maligned and sometimes rightfully so because of what they did is the inmates. A number of inmates are out there and are definitely helping in fighting the fires and everything along those lines. So definitely,
those are, I mean, we have 7,500 firefighters out there at least, and they're all brave mofos, and that includes the convicts that they get paid $5 to $10 a day for putting their lives on the line under terrible conditions. But I want to get Texas has lost in the past year has lost twice as much land to wildfires as California. Texas is way less, if you want to buy the arguments. I don't think Texas's fires were DEI. They had a fire that burned 1,800 square miles. The Smokehouse fire.
So this is what
I think 100 square miles of nothing that got burned.
That fire, okay, it destroyed less than California, but it killed 15,000 cattle and destroyed 500 buildings.
So the thing is, this is where what that is an example of. What that is an example of is how the Republican Party is able to push the narrative, and we're always playing catch up and running their narrative. It doesn't matter that what happened in Western North Carolina dealt with hurt Republicans, or the majority rural counties, which deal with a lot of Republican voters and everything else. What it turned out to be was we were arguing over how Biden failed and Biden this. Now, instead of talking about a catastrophic fire that is a problem, and how they're trying to deal with situations around not only water pressure issues but everything else that is there and working with that fire. We're talking about DEI, which has nothing to do with it.
Hey, Toby, just really quick.
Mark, real quick.
Now, look, this is another deal where we're going to lose time on bullshit. We're going to waste time instead of figuring out how to.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's that narrative that the GOP utilizes to to attack different politics rather than to actually fix a problem. Because right now, do you realize that there were postings out there that were talking about the quote unquote looting? Yes, looting happens in every disaster. But the thing is, the photos they got posted were of black people. Well, those black people that they posted out there were actually trying to clear a house. They were helping people in front of actual firemen.
There were a zillion clips on Twitter of black people with pillowcases filled with stuff. And then if they stop and they talk to the black people, it's, we're getting the hell out. We're helping our friends save some mementos before their houses go up.
Exactly. And there was actually a family that they showed videos of these black people slowly moving a TV out of a house. And they were saying that those black people were looting. No, this young lady here asked these black people here to get their TV out of the house because they were taking as much as valuables as they can to save themselves and whatever they could. But no, it's black people looting. That's what it boiled down to. Because why? That is the BS that Rick is talking about that gets put out there that we sit there and argue over, which is the Republican narrative where they then turn and push politics like, oh, well, it's DEI. Oh, well, we can't trust these black people because they're doing it. No, stop that. It's a catastrophic fire and there are problems that we can deal with, not this crap.
Yeah, but I got a quick question.
We have to get better at countering the BS instead of just letting it sit there. Like I was thinking about Tampon Tim Walz that came up again, where the reason, people said that because of trans, they were putting tampons in boys' rooms. So there's two things about that. If you look at the Minnesota law, it doesn't require tampons in boys' rooms. And if tampons are in boys' bathrooms, it's in Minnesota schools, it's generally because at rural schools, when a visiting girls' sports team comes to play, they use the boys' locker room as their dressing room. And so, you're going to throw some tampons in there. But the Democrats never countered that Tampon Tim stuff. They just said, oh, it's just Republican nonsense, but it sticks in people's heads and you got to knock it out with counter arguments.
Well, speaking of counter arguments, I had a quick question for Sasha and everything, because over the last week, you were talking about the Trump presidency and everything. And I'm gonna get back to the weather in a second because I got a question for Jacoby. But how much of an importance is it going to be that we now have a known convicted felon as the president and everything? Because he was sentenced, he did get some sentencing. I mean, it was a slap on the wrist in a lot of ways to a lot of people and everything. But will that have any sort of impact, the fact that he was sentenced? And maybe Nick's going to jump on board and think some thoughts as well. But he did receive a sentence last week and everything like that. Like I said, it was a light sentence.
I don't think so, because he was also found liable for sexual assault by two different juries. And even back in 2016, it came out that he said that he was entitled to grab women's pussies because he's famous. And that didn't make any difference. None of this makes any difference. The people, his base, and a lot of other people who don't pay much attention, say the conviction is bullshit. And it was made up charges. Nobody else would have been prosecuted for it. It's just because he's Donald Trump. It's legal warfare against Trump. It won't make a difference.
Yeah, his base will defend him regardless. It doesn't matter what it is that is there. He could pee on everybody's mama and they would say, well, he was just trying to clean them off. So Donald Trump right now has a cult. It is literally a cult. They, again, during the campaign, there's the same man that said that he's going to lower grocery prices. They chanted, he's going to lower grocery prices. They voted the economy and he's going to lower grocery prices. He comes into wins and says, well, I don't know if I can lower it. His same base that chanted and voted for him to lower grocery prices are saying, well, he's right.
I'll tell you what is the most important thing that you have to keep in mind about Trump's sentencing and so on is that Merrick Garland from Department of Justice, he wasted a year and a half before appointing special counsel and moving forward on all fronts. And in this case, Trump would have been convicted on one or more trials for sure. But when 1.5 years already wasted, and election was getting closer and closer, so obviously Trump resisted with postponing the dates of hearings and so on, and then the Supreme Court was on his side as well, which helped him a great deal to delay all the proceedings and so on. So that's a reality. Now, obviously, his base is mostly low information voters. They don't understand that what he's promising is one thing, what he's going to deliver is completely different things. I think that his presidency will disintegrate less than 4 years, maybe 2.5 years.
That makes sense and everything.
What can we talk about Merrick Garland for a second?
Yeah,
because Obama nominated him for the Supreme Court in a year before, like 10, 11 months before he was due to leave office. And what the Democrats have sometimes done, usually done with their nominees, is he nominated not a highly political guy, but a very cautious, meticulous guy that I think Obama thought would, not offend the Republicans politically, that he would be a cautious, middle of the road guy. And then he gets blocked by McConnell, and then Biden wants to appoint the same inoffensive guy so not to rile up the political base. And then this guy himself doesn't want to appear politically biased, so he goes very meticulously and slowly, and thought there was a ton of time to work through this stuff, or maybe didn't even want to work through some of it, again, to avoid pissing off the Republicans and cost the prosecution years. And yeah, we got outplayed by the Republicans again.
Hold on. The problem was that if he would be appointed as one of the Supreme Court judges, he would have been just one in the 9 judges construction. Yeah. So whatever he's doing is not that crucial. Okay, he could have been a little bit more aggressive or less aggressive. It doesn't matter. Now, when he was appointed as the Department of Justice, head of the Department of Justice, that is a lot of responsibility. And he, okay.
Yeah. There are people that if I could Google it, there are people who could have been appointed instead of him as AG, who would have been much more aggressive and who would have prosecuted much more from the top down. And he was building cases from the bottom up. And so that was a bad strategy, it turned out.
There are a couple of issues. The Supreme Court thing, I wish he would have been on the Supreme Court rather than AG, because that would have put us at 5-4 rather than the 6-3 disparity that we're at. Him being AG, you're right, Sasha. He held back. The problem is he is that same issue across that. He is an example of that same issue across the whole Democrat Party. The problem is the Democrats want to have the moral high ground. The Democrats don't want to ruffle too many feathers. It is a truly big tent party. It has a lot of people, and they want to basically meld everything together. The Republican Party is different. They actually don't care to ruffle feathers. They're going to do what they're going to do if you like it or not. That's why they have Donald Trump. That's exactly. I mean, the dude gave a blowjob to a microphone on stage in front of a ton of people, and nobody cared. He was, that's funny stuff. Come on now. Had anybody else done that, it would have been a problem. Had a Democrat done that, it would have been the worst. I mean, Obama wore a tan suit and it became the end of the world. So the parties are living in two different worlds. We've established that this party tries to have that moral high ground. It's gained not really much of anything. This party here says, screw it. We're just going to do what we're going to do, and you're going to like it or not. And this party here seems to garner a lot of male power and testosterone and a lot of white angst, and has gotten a lot of power.
Jacoby, I hear what you're saying, but hold on a second.
You have two
Hold on a
candidates.
second.
Hold on. You have two candidates who would have been better than Garland. Sally Yates, who was Assistant Attorney General under Obama, would have been more aggressive. Former Senator Doug Jones would have been more aggressive. And there's an article that says that Biden regrets choosing Garland. And Biden should have fired him maybe 18 months in. When
that goes into the whole
hold on a second, both of you, because one of the things I was going to bring up is that there can be some imploding even within the Republican Party as well, because apparently there's an infight that's going to be very interesting. I'd love to hear Sasha's thoughts about this, because there's a major Trump ally that's about to try to take on another Trump ally, because Steve Bannon, we know, has got his own convictions and everything, has basically said that Elon Musk is an evil person, and he's chosen to take down Elon Musk, and he's saying that he's going to have him run out of here by Inauguration Day, which is next week, and everything. So apparently there's some infighting in the Republican Party as well, and that could be between the MAGAs and others also. But I'm just thinking, how much is this infighting going to play? Because these are two powerful individuals. Elon Musk is definitely a billionaire and everything, but Steve Bannon still has some influence on Trump as well. So how much is this infighting going to hurt them?
Well, it's hard to predict. Musk has enormous resources. I've done my investigation the last few days about regions of Elon Musk, even his name, Elon, where it's coming from, and what are his predecessors did. For example, I've just discovered that both his grandparents, they were members of the Nazi Party of Canada before they moved to South Africa. So obviously they were big supporters of Nazis, and his father was a big supporter of Nazis. And the book published in the United States in 1952 by Werner von Braun about colonization of Mars, that was a table book in Musk's family. So his regions, and even the name Elon is coming from that book. That was the name of the supreme ruler of Mars colony. So this absolutely throws light on who Musk is, where he's coming from.
So you got two things going on with people on Trump's side. One is the battle to get in Trump's ear and affect policy. The second thing is to just suck money out of Trump's base, like Michael Flynn and Bannon, and all of them have this, this Charlie, what's his Turning Point USA guy with, the huge head. They've got an industry of fleecing the roots, and they'll be fine. Even if they don't have Trump's ear, they will continue to make tens of millions of bucks off the suckers.
Let's just be honest. I mean, let's really get straight to the point. Trump only cares about money. Which one has more money? Steve Bannon, Elon Musk? Elon Musk does. So what'll happen is there's not going to be a split. There's not going to be a battle. What's going to happen is Trump is going to say whatever Elon Musk tells him, and then Steve Bannon will fall in line. Doge is no more than a American trial run at an oligarchy, because nobody, absolutely no one, has been able to tell me the difference between Doge and an oligarchy. Putin has his oligarchy. Trump now has his. Doge is just billionaires spending their time not getting paid. That's complete BS. It's an oligarchy. It's just a different name. No one can tell me any difference.
I absolutely agree with what you just said, Jacoby. He's going to listen. There's no Stephen Bannon, Elon Musk controversy. Elon Musk will destroy Steve Bannon. Stephen Bannon is history because Elon Musk has more money, more power. It's not even close. His rating is 100 times higher than Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon's toast. I agree with you on that. I agree
Yeah,
with
but Bannon, all right, so Bannon licks his wounds and he goes off and he does his podcast and he sucks, $500,000 worth of contributions from the suckers every week.
Who cares? He's small potatoes. I also agree with Utopia that it's an oligarchy, but it's also been shown that oligarchies, just like dictatorships, can be much more efficient than the stupid democracies that are out there. Coming from a group of people that are royals, we can tell you that that is true. So the thing is, I can tell you from the royalist standpoint, you're going to see oligarchies to be very efficient. And you got to look at what happened in China. Their GDP is like 5 times greater than ours, but it's run like a dictatorship. So even though you poo-poo oligarchies, doesn't mean they're not efficient. Ask China. Thank you, Toby.
Okay, yeah, but China on the one hand, but on the other hand, Russia and Venezuela, where you've got inefficient, incompetent dictatorships.
Yeah, well, that's because they actually go for this leftist agenda. They believe that anybody can run the oil fields, and they found out that that's not
How's that
so
leftist agenda?
they go, we're going to take over the oil fields and throw out these people.
We were in agreement. We were in agreement for a second.
The fire department, put in DEI people who don't know how to run a fire department, and watch what happens. The fires take place.
So Nick, it's just funny though. Why do you say everything bad is leftist? That's your first go-to. That's the Republican Party mantra right there. Anything bad, oh, that's leftist right there. It doesn't matter if these conservative values led to blank. Oh, well, the blank that it got to, that's a bad situation. Oh my gosh, that's leftist.
So hold on a second. I'm trying to understand. Hold on, because I'm trying to understand Nick. So if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm just gonna I'm throw this out here, and it's actually in Sasha's lane and everything in terms of investment. So by your philosophy, Nick, the PA Attorney General, who is advising shoppers to take precautions following Big Lots, which is a major store, and everything's bankruptcy because a North Carolina-based company is going to acquire 200 plus of these. That's a leftist conspiracy. Is that what you're saying? Because apparently we're getting ready to have North Carolina companies buy this big shopping centers, all of everything. So is that a leftist conspiracy, Nick?
I don't have enough information to opine on what you're saying.
Oh,
Mark, just put it simply. Is it bad or is it good? Because if it's bad, he's going to say it's a leftist conspiracy.
I agree with Toby. If it's bad, it's definitely a leftist conspiracy. At least Toby and I are thinking on the same lines.
So like I said, the PA General is saying that he said the shoppers need to take precautions because Big Lots is going bankrupt. So a major capitalist corporation is going bankrupt, but the PA General is advising shoppers to take precautions. So therefore, it must be leftist, according to your philosophy.
Yeah, of course. Right. Yeah. Mine and Jacoby, we both agree on that one.
So we got 1 week to go until Trump takes office. Hold on.
Go ahead, Rick.
So the stock market hasn't been particularly happy over the past few weeks. How much of that is Trump? How much of it is the Fed? Sasha, what do you think? Nick, what do you think about this?
A little bit of everything. First of all, Fed said that he is not going to resign even if pushed out by Donald Trump. He's going to stay. So it means another year at least. Now the policies of Trump, they are becoming more and more murky, and stock market doesn't like when it's not clean and clear what is going to happen. Nobody knows because Trump is talking one thing, he talks about another thing, he does a third thing. He's okay, it means in high school, bully tactics, I want to grab this, you are full of this, and so on. It works fine. But on the international stage, especially in the greatest country, the United States, to have a bully in charge, okay, so he'll talk for another few weeks, then a few more weeks, and he will run out, and people will get tired, even his supporters, of all this promises that he's making more and more and delivering less and less. People will get tired of him inside the United States and, of course, outside just as well.
Yep.
Okay,
Hey,
well, this is all going to change because when Trump gets in, they're going to slash the government budget down to the bone.
Boy, he's not gonna do it. He's not.
Or because on top of it, they're going to make tax cuts for the rich. And
Here's
that's
here's the irony
So much.
again. We
Good
circle
stuff.
back to the beginning. The funny part about Nick saying cutting the budget, and we were just complaining about not having money for the wildfires, and Nick is now talking about cutting the budget. What do you think FEMA gets its money from? Where do you think a lot of this money comes from for the states to deal with particular things? So when you cut the budget, what's going to get cut first? Down to the bare bones, you haven't said that you wanted FEMA. So you're talking about removing all this where now people can't rebuild their homes because you said that you didn't want that money. So, okay, now we're full circle again.
And
Full
they
circle.
shouldn't rebuild their homes in floodplains, and they shouldn't rebuild their homes in
Talk about
fire-hazard
freedom.
places and put up straw homes. Of course not, Jatovi. So yeah, you cut the FEMA budget and they go, well, I don't build my home. Too
So
bad.
now you
Do
want
it
regulations?
at your own risk.
Wait. I think we've come to something here. Nick was battling the Republican, was coming from the Republican side, and now he wants regulations? Is that what I'm hearing? Now Nick wants regulations.
No, you didn't hear me, obviously.
Oh, no.
Your ears are full of it. Okay, so is your mouth, but that's another story. The thing is, what I said was, if you're going to build no government subsidies, build at your own risk. And if it burns down, it's your problem, not mine. Have a good day. I'm going to go to see economics.
he's off to economics, and we're all getting to go there shortly and everything. Toby, I did have the quick question for you and everything, and we got a minute or two while they start economics. But one of the things that I know people have talked about, because even Rick kind of alluded to it with the whole notion of the fires. And yes, we have things in North Carolina, including snow and all along those lines. And so we sometimes get over concerned, even in our own concerns around climate change. Because I'm sorry, I was joking with a friend earlier today, and I'm going like, wait a minute, we're delaying school for months because basically they are having some delays in this area. And I do know that there are some regions that are harder hit, but I was going like, these are 2-hour delays over major transit and everything. So I just wanted your take on that. Are we sometimes being maybe a little bit overly cautious even here in North Carolina?
I don't think so. I mean, for example, there was a 2-hour delay here in Durham. I mean, there's still ice on the road, but we're not thinking about where in those rural areas those individuals have to come to school, because at 8 o'clock in the morning or at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's still below freezing. So all that water is frozen. So now you're going to send buses, these big, giant behemoth machines on those icy plains that could end up harming kids. So do you want to take the chance of having somebody's child harmed? Or do you want to just go ahead and play it safe and just do a delay, and then you can make it up on the back end in terms of school, or even have a day off? And then, yes, it causes a problem for parents. Yeah, parents have to figure out, okay, what they're going to do with it or how they're going to be able to cover that child, which leads into another, everything is connected, which leads into another idea of, hey, maybe we need more money for teachers, because if you notice, when a parent stays home with their child, they're struggling to try and teach this child anyway. It's just a lot of stuff that ties together. But no, do I think we're being overly cautious? No, because you're looking at somebody's child, and we have more people now than we did in the past, which means potential for more injury now than we did in the past.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as we get out the number and everything. I was going to send my wishes not just to the folks in California, but there are other parts of the world that have been hit by a tragedy as well. So I did want to mention, because I was going to mention earlier, there was a tsunami advisory issued after a strong earthquake hit the Japanese coast. So there was a 6.8 magnitude earthquake that struck near Japan. So some of these natural calamities that we've been talking about don't just impact the United States, they also impact other parts of the world as well. So definitely we got to think
more
about
serious
that.
News. Do we give a crap about the NFL playoffs?
Actually, we
all
do.
The teams I care about kind of deservedly got their asses kicked.
Well, we're probably
going
to go on opposite ends, because we're probably going to go on opposite ends, Rick, because I am a longtime Vikings fan, and they're playing the Rams, which I know you're out there in California, so I'm going to be rooting for Minnesota in that particular game.
The Rams aren't going to prevail. Likely. The Vikings are a better team. The Broncos are my team. They were not the better team. You know, the Pittsburgh I wanted, they did not. You know,
And I
mean,
look.
I will say, honestly, Rick, I'm thinking that you may actually prevail because I hate to say it, Mark, because the Rams defense has been playing extremely well lately, and if they can hold down, if they can make Sam Darnold do like he did last week, where he turned back into the Jets version of Sam Darnold,
Right.
he's going to look bad. And if he can't get the ball out to Jeffries on the end or to his wideouts, then he's going to struggle. But the Rams, if the gift of Charbonnet comes on and plays like he did the last 2 games and puts up, because I had him on my fantasy team, puts up roughly about 120 rushing yards and a touchdown, and with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp right there going, you got a good shot. I wouldn't count them out.
Well, like
All
I said,
right,
I'm rooting for the Minnesota. I will say this
One
really
more-
quickly.
one more NFL question. Like, so Kansas City has a bye, but earlier in the season they were called the worst 14-1 team in history. Are they gonna steamroll to the Super Bowl this time, or are they gonna get taken down?
Winner between Buffalo and Baltimore is going to the Super Bowl, because Kansas City's a great team, and I don't want to discount Kansas City. The game, what was it? Denver and that was Denver and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Who are they playing? They're going to end up playing the Houston. Houston actually is a good team. Houston gets underrated. They the quarterback can run. He's a dual threat quarterback. The problem that they ran into is the fact that their number 2 wide receiver, Tank Dell, who's their deep threat, got hurt. But they do have Nico Collins back, if I remember, and they still have the running back in the backfield. So they do, and their defense is tough. So if they can hold down and let Travis Kelce do his thing, if they can hold down the 2 wideouts that they have and keep DeAndre Hopkins out of the end zone, plus Isaiah Pacheco is back for Kansas City, and he runs angrily when he runs. But if they can hold down that and get after Patrick Mahomes and see if that actual high ankle sprain that he had before or going into the bye week that he had, if that's untested and they get after Patrick Mahomes, Houston actually can sneak up and win. But I think Kansas City will win that game. But I think between Baltimore and Buffalo, that's a coin flip right now. I would like to see Baltimore win it, but I think Buffalo, because they're playing in Buffalo, Reliance Stadium, if they win it, I can see both of those teams, because you got
isn't Mahomes kind of famous for limping around, always getting his leg messed up and then scrambling out of it?
He's known for that. Just to tie it all back together and tie it all back together, including with politics and everything. I am wondering, because that had been one of the strong lucky strikes and everything, if they continue winning, and I don't know that they will continue winning, that if Trump's going to start claiming that he is a Washington Commanders fan and everything along those lines, because they did get that lucky.
I'm going to say, all right, I think Commanders is a even creepier team name than the Redskins. Commanders just sounds like it came like a plantation name. Hey, Commander. I don't like it at all.
But we'll see. Maybe he'll be trying to claim that name and everything. And I'll go really quickly, because I was talking to a friend that was at the game. He said that they were cheated because there were some power plays that Anaheim did and everything that didn't get called, some cross checks. But I was glad to see that Eric Stahl, who was on the championship team for the Carolina Hurricanes, got his shirt retired, and that he now has hanging up in the rafters and everything. So I'm assuming you were at that game, but I know my good friend Martin Freed was there as a fan, not as a employee, but I assume you were at that game.
It was pretty cool. I mean, I recorded most of it, put it up on Instagram. Okay. So I got the Instagram photos of the jersey retirement and all the other stuff. But yeah, it was good to see. It was good to see.
Cool. And on that note, we'll get ready to get on out of here, and we'll have more conversations around politics and other things on later on today. And I know that they've got that economics conversation going on as we're wrapping this up. So I'll catch you possibly over there, and definitely possibly on the media show as well.